I like to answer these questions. Some of them are left over from yesterday's. Is it required to experience all the jhanas to reach liberation? I think I answered this question indirectly today in my Dhamma talk. You don't have to attain all the jhanas to attain liberation. Some even have not attained any jhanas and still attain liberation. But the person who attains liberation without attaining any jhana has to have good jhanic quality concentration. That means the person has to overcome hindrances that gives him good concentration. Then he gains, he attains the stage of first level of enlightenment called stream entry. There are many sutras as evidence for this attainment, like Upali Sutta and what they call Suppa Buddha Sutta and so forth. You can see individuals attaining stream entry without attaining jhana only by overcoming hindrances. If you are a householder, besides retreat, how can one practice jhanas? Actually, householders themselves can find, they should find time to be secluded from all their activities, maybe in a separate room in the house or little place in the garden. Some such place they have to select to be away from all other activities and then focus the mind on their practice, especially the breathing and so on. So coming to a retreat would be relatively easier. Therefore we leave this to individuals to decide which they can do, because sometimes when they stay home they may feel perhaps secure, familiar environment, and in case of emergency they can attend to those things and so on. Considering these factors, some may like to stay home and practice. Others might find it much easier to go to a retreat center and have a retreat to practice more seriously. Some meditation teachers say that one should force the mind into concentration. Others say that one should not force the mind. What should one do in jhana practice? Forcing anything may not work. It must come to a person naturally when the person is ready, mood is ready, time is ready, mind is ready. Then the person should do the practice more seriously in order to gain jhana. To make everything right, one definitely must keep practicing meditation. Without any meditation, all these things will not come together to bring the right moment. In order to get the right moment, you should keep your meditation practice very regularly. Then one day you might think, oh, boy, it is so wonderful, let me try to gain jhana. So, that will happen. Are we to focus on sustained and applied thought to reach the seek and maintain the first jhana, or on breath? If former, which is the role of breath in this process? Now, you don't focus your mind on sustained thought and applied thought to reach to maintain the first jhana. You have to focus your mind, total attainment, not only sustained applied thought or sustained thought, and not picking one particular aspect of jhanic qualities or jhana factors, but the total attainment, total experience, you should focus your mind on. And however, your breath is going in and out, in and out, in and out, and that always is present. So when the total experience is not very clear, you stay with the breath, and then again you will be on the jhanic experience again. So these are the two alternatives that you will have: the breath and the total experience of jhanic practice. We have to seclude unwholesome state of mind to reach jhana, but we also rely on reaching jhana to seclude wholesome state of mind. Which one can come first? Secluding from unwholesome mental states come first, naturally. Without secluding yourself from unwholesome mental states, you cannot practice or gain jhana. And therefore these two are not interchangeable or alternate situation, no altering one over the other. Always overcome mental impurities, seclude yourself from unwholesome mental state first, and then the rest follows. Would you please repeat the 8 additional qualities of the 4th jhana? Okay. Purity, parisuddha. Pariyodhata, white, clean. Mudu, soft. Kammani, pliable, very flexible. Steady, and imperturbable. Did I say all that? Mudubhuta, Kammaniya, and Parisuddha, Pariyodhata, Anangana. Pure, clean, no stain, no idiosyncrasies, soft, pliable, steady, and imperturbable. These are the 8 qualities. I find it easier to experience the first jhana in the morning. Is this normal? It only lasts for a few minutes. Yes, it is very normal. Gaining jhana in the morning, gaining concentration in the morning is easier. Towards evening, our senses are tired, mind is tired, and in this temperature, especially towards evening, everything is weak and difficult to gain concentration. So morning is the best. For good reason, because morning you have rested at night, although some people cannot sleep because when it is too hot, I don't think too many people can sleep well. But however, assuming that you had good sleep, your senses are calm, you are relaxed, mind is fresh, therefore in the morning, concentration is very good. One does initial thought and sustained thought through to move from first jhana to second jhana. What is the method to move from the second jhana to third jhana? I think I have to repeat the same thing, same method. When you are in the first jhana, you keep repeating. Every jhana you attain, you have to repeat it because you can lose it. You keep repeating until you are quite familiar with it and master it. Then when you are mastered that particular jhana, whether it is first, second, third, then mind will no longer be there. It looks for something higher than that naturally, because the mind is very same like anything else. Diminishing return. Your original enthusiasm slowly diminish, and then mind looks for something different and goes to the next higher level. So you naturally eliminate lower level and move yourself up to the higher level. In the Dantabhumi Sutta, the Buddha says one practices the four foundations and then is able to directly enter second jhana. How does this happen? I think in Dantabhumi Sutta, the Buddha does not say that you can attain the second jhana directly. If you read the passage, you see the Buddha says the same thing as you see in this formula, having overcome. Let me see the passage. Okay. With the subsiding of applied thought and sustained thought, one enters and dwells in the second jhana. When you read with the subsiding of applied thought and sustained thought, it naturally implies that you have already attained applied thought and sustained thought. These are the two states of the first jhana. You have already attained the first jhana. And therefore when you attain the second jhana, with the subsiding of applied thought and sustained thought applies. So Buddha mentioned this clearly in the sutta, After reading this question, I had little time to go to the sutta, and that is why I can tell with confidence and request you to read the sutta again, and you will see it very clearly. Since you have already attained it, when you attain the second jhana, you overcome this applied thought and sustained thought. Normally, no one can attain higher jhanas without going through the lower ones. Even the Buddha, when he was going to pass away, he attained all the jhanas. All he started from the first, second, third, fourth, and so on. When he came down from the fourth, third, second, and first. The order always is there. Despite keeping a daily meditation practice, when I go back home, I feel like the clarity and potency of my practice diminishes after I have retreat. What advice do you have for us to maintain the fruits of our practice when we are retreat, when we have retreat? Particularly those of us who live in major cities where the senses are naturally overstimulated by noise and general busyness. Actually, it is a real challenge, I know that, and therefore, even in cities, I believe people can find time. One advantage in cities, living in cities, is that everything is readily available very quickly. You don't have to drive too far for shopping, for various things. Things are very easily, readily available here and there. So they can save little time, traveling time. And so many, especially in modern society, so many gadgets, so many machines. I think people, they are not very expensive also. Very easily they can get. So because of this, the machines are invented to save time. Unfortunately, we add more machines to spend our time. Therefore, using your machines, save your time and use that time to meditate. I think even at home, with all these problems, busyness and all this, if we have serious commitment, determination to practice, then we certainly can find time. And I advise people who live in cities to use the opportunity to practice. Especially there must be what is called spiritual urgency. Spiritual urgency. Our life is busy, we have little time, we are still healthy, we are not very sick, and therefore we must make use of these advantages to find time to practice. Then they will, I believe, that might help them to practice. Should we be doing only samatha and meditation, or once the mind is concentrated, should we do an insight? Now, as I said, if somebody is very, very much interested in practicing samatha meditation, that means concentration meditation, by all means do that. And then when the person gains high level of concentration, in that concentrated state of mind, one begins to see very indisputable truth. That is, every tiny little thing is changing all the time. Awareness of change, awareness of impermanence, this is my favorite. When I say more about impermanence, people think Bhante Ji is very old. He is talking about impermanence because he knows that he might die any time. We are young. Who cares for impermanence? We are tired. You may think that way. Friends, I'm telling the truth. Because so many things happen in my life. When I look back, I don't see any of them now. All are gone. You look back of your life, what do you have with you now? What really you have? You experience countless beautiful things, countless bitter things. Sight, seeing, smell, taste, touch and so forth. Where are they now? They all are gone. So, we don't see them very clearly. When we gain deep concentration, we can see this happening this very moment. What is happening now has happened all these years in the past. Nothing different. Nothing different. Things are changing, all. Now it is almost 5:30. When we woke up, it was 5:30 in the morning. Now it is 5:30 in the evening. In between, what happened to the time? What happened to our feelings? The taste of food? All are gone. And now we are tired. In the morning, fresh. Where is the freshness now? Gone. When we wake up in the morning, where is tiredness? Gone. So, countless things always happen to us and they all disappear. So when you practice mindfulness or concentration, meditation, when the mind is fully concentrated, you can see these changes taking place in the minutest way. Change doesn't take place all of a sudden like this. They are changing slow, very quickly, every fraction of the second. And therefore, if you want to practice samatha meditation, concentration meditation, go ahead, do it. One day, or in any time you gain deep, good concentration, you see impermanence. So Buddha said repeatedly, many times, Samahitam chittam yatha bhutam pajanati. Concentrated mind sees things exactly as they are. Impermanence is not artificial, not created by scientists. No, no. Impermanence is there. And that we can see what is there. We can see what is there when we gain true, deep concentration. That triggers your insight. Insight is, panya in Pali panya, always defined udayabbe jnana. Panya means udayabbe jnana. Uday means rising, vaya means passing away. Awareness, knowledge of impermanence, rising and falling is called panya, wisdom. We are deluded. We like to be deluded. Delusion is a bliss. Ignorance is a bliss. But suffering lies under that. Wisdom is more blissful and suffering will vanish because of our understanding, because of our wisdom. Therefore, friends, this is my favorite subject these days, impermanence. Whether you like it or not, you will have that knowledge, that wisdom when you come to my age. Wait until such time. Wait. Then you will not laugh at me. You'll say, oh, gee, Pantaji is right. You mentioned stream entrance the other night. Do you think it is possible now for a lay person to become a stream enterer? Have you known any lay or monastic? I must answer the last question first. Normally, stream enterers don't put a sign on their chest saying, I'm a stream enterer. Like some people, when they want to observe silence, they put a sign here. I am observing silence. So everybody respect me. Really, they can do that. But stream enterers never do that kind of advertisement. Nor do they write on their forehead, or back, or shirt, blouse. No. All in the mind. When they behave, we will know this person definitely is stream enterer. No talking about himself or herself too much. No, too much pride. Pride is a virtue in society. Oh, I'm so proud for such and such. For him or her, it is just a very trivial thing. Person is humble. The person will do things with full, utmost confidence. That person has the confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha and the principle of morality. No doubt. No ego. No following rituals. Because the person knows rituals have no place in the spiritual practice. No place. If you see these three things in somebody, don't ask, are you a stream enterer? Don't ask. You make your own conclusion. Layperson, man or woman, can attain that state, and once they attain it, they live very quiet, peaceful time without too much publicity. So it is possible. Don't ask me, what can we do it today? So long as Dhamma exists, it is possible. And Buddha gave that guarantee. So long as Dhamma exists, so long as people understand it and put Dhamma into practice, it is not something provincial or some kind of a periodic attainment. So long as Dhamma exists, people practice it, they can attain it without any question. Few years back, when I did metta meditation, when I thought, may all beings be happy, a warm, compassionate feelings arose in my heart. I was developing it until it profused. But now, with those same words, that feelings does not arise easily. Checking my mind, it does not have anger or hate, but the warm feeling is missing. What should I do? Should I only try Anapana? Please advise. Initially you may have warm feeling, but you are not void of warm feeling afterward. You are still having warm feeling. It has become so ordinary now, so ordinary, and therefore you may not have that warm feeling. Your compassion is there, your friendliness is there, and your feeling is not as fresh and warm as it was, but it is there. So you don't have to do anything, you keep practicing it, you keep doing it. You don't feel like hurting somebody, you don't like hating somebody, you don't like killing someone, and you don't like harming anybody. So it has already settled down in your mind. Metta practice, metta. This is what I said. First you verbalize, then you think, and then you feel. The feeling at the beginning, of course, anything at the beginning is very, very awesome. And later on it settles down, then you take it as an ordinary thing. At the guts level, you don't hurt anybody, you don't feel like saying things to hurt anybody and doing anything to anybody to hurt. You feel. That's enough. And therefore you keep practicing. Why do the monks all have both shoulders covered in this heat? I myself asked this question. We feel in hot countries like Sri Lanka, India, Thailand, Burma, Laos and so forth, we don't wear shirts at all. Keep this side completely bare. But if you people may all understand, but out there in the world, in this country, still people think that we are already crazy. And when we go covering only one shoulder, they will throw stones at us, thinking that these are lunatics. They must be in prison, in what you call asylum, lunatic asylum. Only women are permitted to cover only one shoulder if they like. Men, no. People like to see women's body. They don't like to see men's body. So, if you go with bare shoulder, that will not be very pleasant in this society. Especially because of this society, since it is still not matured in Buddhist thoughts, since still they think we are strangers, we came from the moon. And so, this unidentified object. Therefore, we have to be very careful not to offend people and get ourselves hurt. So we put on this. If we don't go out and don't expose ourselves to people, I myself like to stay covering only one shoulder in this weather. When practicing jhana and sound external occurs, if we shift our focus to fully hearing the sound and then back to breath, with this breath absorption or will this break absorption or is it okay to shift our focus object? No. If you hear a sound, if you are in the concentration, meditation stage and gain some degree of concentration and you are focusing your mind on this attainment, sound may occur outside, you may hear sound, but you will not pay special attention to sound. It comes and goes very quickly, and mind will stay on your focus, on your concentration. So don't stop your concentration in order to go to the sound. Let the sound come and go. You stay on your practice. Don't break it. I was taught to meditate using a mantra. When I am observing my breath, the mantra comes to my mind. Can I use the mantra to enhance concentration in jhana meditation? I would say no. As I said, our purpose is not just gaining concentration. Not only concentration, there are many other wholesome mental factors. And therefore, we want to stay fully awake, alert of what is going on in our mind. Along with concentration, using concentration, we must know what is going on in the mind. Mantra is not always our natural thing. This is artificially introduced to us in order just to gain concentration. That concentration does not have the jhanic qualities. And therefore, as you know, when you focus your mind on a flame of light, you may gain concentration. When you focus your mind on a flower, you may gain, and that's what's called absorption. People say you become one with the object. Then what? You become one with the flame. Then what? You cannot go beyond that. Similarly, our purpose of gaining jhanic concentration is to know what is happening, what is going on in our mind and body without any distractions. And therefore, using any sound, any mantra, I would not recommend. What are the exact steps to attain jhana in order? Please. I will explain this because it takes a long time, so I explain this in tomorrow's talk. So I put it aside for now. I still do not know the steps following, and also the same, related to the same question. Okay. I frequently notice when I am meditating that there is a subtle level of aversion underlying my practice. It's like a subconscious feeling of resistance to meditating. How do I work with this? I think this is where you have to have zeal, interest in the practice. If you don't taste the peace you gain in meditation, it is sort of boring, and you may even dislike it. You may even think that you are wasting your time and so on. These sort of negative reactions will appear in our mind when you do not taste the peace of meditation, peace of your concentration. Look at your mind, look at your body, see how much you relax, how much less stress you have, how much peace you experience. Look at these benefits that you really experience, and they are very good incentives for you to continue the practice. When you don't see any of these things, you may feel meditation is boring. So, honestly look at yourself. Perhaps you may even compare yourself from what you are experiencing now with before you came to meditation, before you started meditation. Before you started meditation, your mind has become much, much more chaotic, full of stress, tension, anxiety, worry and so on. But after meditation, when you started meditation, they slowly subside, removed from your mind, became weak. That alone is a wonderful experience. Think of those experiences, think of those benefits. That would take away your dislike or resentment or boredom. When I focus on my breathing, do I focus on one nostril or both? Friends, unless one nostril is blocked by mucus or sinus problems, your nostrils are open. When the nostrils are open, when you breathe, breath goes through both nostrils. If you close one nostril with finger, then you can have only one nostril open. Otherwise, nostrils are open all the time. So when you breathe in and out, don't try to force yourself to focus your mind on one nostril. This is very, very unnatural. If somebody gave you this advice, I don't know what I can tell about that person. A friend practices meditation of a Hindu tradition. He offers to teach me some techniques to gain concentration. Should I use his techniques or should mix Buddhist and Hindu traditions? I would say no. I must ask you, when you have diamond, why you want to go for copper? I don't run down other religions, but the Buddha's meditation technique, meditation system, I think is a very, very good system. Other traditions also have meditation systems. But once we start this practice, we want to do it to the very end. Don't change horses in midstream. Continue your Buddhist meditation practice. I have great respect for my Hindu friends. I lived in India. I have many, many wonderful friends among Hindus. But I want to stay with Buddhist practice, partly because I was brought up in that tradition, and therefore I am more familiar with this practice, and I can see benefit of this practice, and therefore I would not mix it up with anything else. What is the most important aspects of Buddhism to teach beginners? Most important core heart of Buddhism is Four Noble Truths. But it is too lofty for a beginner. And therefore we would start with practicing metta meditation, meditation on compassion, meditation on appreciative joy, things like that, very simple things we introduce. Friendliness, metta meditation, friendliness, anybody can relate to this subject. So we want to be friendly with everyone, human, animals, and all other living beings. Nobody can reject that, nobody can dispute it, and therefore perhaps that may be the beginning. And also, loving friendliness is hallmark of Buddhism, the Buddha's teaching. Entire teaching has what is called one taste of peace, upasama sukha. And this peace comes from the practice of friendliness. If everybody is friendly, who wants to fight? So we introduce this to people at the beginning who know nothing about Buddhism. In order to gain jhana, should I turn my attention from the breath to the pleasant sensations? Should I try to enlarge these sensations through the body? Sensation can be used as an object of meditation. That is one object in Satipatthana, in Shula Satipatthana, 4 foundations of mindfulness. Number 2 is feelings. Sensation is also feeling. Using that one can practice meditation as a good subject. But don't always look for pleasant feeling. Sometimes you can introduce a pleasant feeling. It may not actually be pleasant, but it is artificially created pleasant feeling. We don't create anything artificially to focus our mind on. We rather focus our mind on natural feeling. It can be pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, with greed, without greed, and so on. Various type of feelings there. As feeling arises, we focus our attention on that feeling, and as it fades away, we become aware of that. And if it increases, we become aware of that. Slowly and gradually, we adjust to the feeling until we see the feeling turn into pleasant feeling. It turns into pleasant feeling. That happens slowly and naturally, and we become aware of this slow, natural growth of feeling, changing one feeling into another. Then there is no any excitement, the mind calms down again, and body-mind becomes relaxed, and then we will be able to overcome our hindrances and gain jhana. So, don't try to find only the pleasant feeling, which is not very practical, because pleasant feeling does not stay pleasant all the time. When it fades away, we will end up in disappointment. When we know the feeling of variety of feelings we have, then there is no one feeling more specific than other. All feelings are alive. That kind of universality of the feeling have a generality of feeling, makes the mind calm, relaxed and peaceful. Therefore, don't try to find only pleasant feeling. With this friend, I have to conclude today's answering. I did very well today. In 1 hour, not answering questions, but time-wise I did well. In 1 hour I answered all the questions.